Hello, everybody. I'm Cynthia Allen. Glad to be here with you just to really introduce Brian Shircliff. I want to say some fabulous things about him. He came into my life about 8 or 9 years ago now, and we'll tell the story in a minute. But I'm just going to say something about Brian himself. So Brian is a yoga teacher, certifies many people in yoga. He's part of an incredible program to certify people in healing touch. He is an author, a Hebrew scholar, and with some quite interesting, controversial, and I think important books that he's been offering around a new translation for the Old Testament, the understanding of the prophets. And Brian is a Bones for Life teacher, and he's got a background in neurolinguistics programming. So, I mean, he is just really done a ton of stuff over his short lifetime yet. I'm going to call it a short lifetime yet, Brian. Hi.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. And so before I just completely turn the whole thing over to Brian, I just love the story of how Brian and I met. So I'm going to tell a little bit, then Brian's going to tell a little bit, then I'm going to tell a little bit. So I would, in my old brick and mortar days, right, I would host these, what I called tea and learns. And people would come to learn about a program, show up in person and learn about a program, or usually it was around Bones for Life. In this particular case, they were Bones of Life tea and learns. And I only ever had like 4 people signed up for this one tea and learn. It was really going to be a small group. And then we had a snowstorm. And so the 2 women that were signed up for the group didn't show up, but 2 guys showed up. Now, let's let Brian say how he got there, and then we'll continue the story.
Well, I got there because a friend invited me, but I have to say I rolled my eyes when she told me it was Bones for Life, because my mom had been doing Bones for Life, I don't know, 10 years before that maybe. And I thought the stuff was dumb. I just thought it was so silly. All these silly little interventions to try to create change. And I was all hardcore and thinking that handstands would save the world and hardcore martial arts would be the thing that everybody needs. And a friend of mine gave me this little card that Cynthia had made for this tea and learn. And I was like, oh goodness, not that Bones for Life stuff again. I went to be nice to this friend and went in with hip pain that day that I had been aggravating through my handstands will save the world approach. And within 5 minutes, my pain was gone. And I thought,
Yeah. So this snowstorm, Brian and another young man walks in. And so I have, I think probably a 22-year-old and a 40-year-old at the time, something like that. And both really fit guys. And typically people think of Bones for Life as being for women. And they also think of it about being women who are older and maybe not as fit. And that's, I've always gotten a range of people in my groups, Brian, but it's never very frequent, and it's rare that a couple of fit guys show up. And so I'm like, okay, here I got bouncing on heels to teach them. I can't even imagine that this is going to go well for these 2 guys. And then another small thing to teach them, and then another small thing to teach them. And then you both signed up for the program immediately.
Within a week. Exactly.
Yeah, it was shocking. It was shocking for me. It was lovely and shocking. And so since then, of course, you graduated several years ago, and you've been teaching with me now for a while. And so I'm really pleased for you to be able to offer this for people today. I'm going to turn it over to you and just let you wow them. And let me just get the muting taken care of. It looks like it's already taken care of. Looks like you did it. Okay, so I'll disappear, and Brian, take it away.
Thanks, Cynthia. So I can invite everyone to come to stand. Move yourself to some place where you can stand easily. And I think it's always wise to have like a chair in front of you. So find a place where you can stand. Maybe a chair is just resting right in front of you. dive right into this wonderful body of work, Bones for Life. So here, just so you see, here's my chair. I got the back of the chair real close to me. So it's always available for a hand. Let's see if I can pin myself so that helps a little bit. There we go. And once you're in a place where you can stand easily, and know that if what I'm offering is not your cup of tea today, you could decide just to sit and do it in your imagination. As a matter of fact, you're going to get some great benefits by doing that, or even just watch. So lots and lots of options. And we can talk about how all that works later too. So if you're choosing to stand with me or you're imagining, take a moment just to see if you can become aware of your wonderful feet. And which foot seems to have more of the weight of yourself upon it? So for instance, if you had the two old time scales, I've noticed the digital scales don't seem to work so well for this little experiment. And you put one foot on one scale and one foot on the other scale, just in your normal standing position, way of standing. Which scale would read more, slightly more than the other in terms of weight? And if it's not so clear, you could just move a little bit, right? Sway just the slightest bit and kind of go, oh, wait a minute, that foot doesn't have as much weight. Or, oh, wait a minute, there seems like there's more weight already on that foot. Good. And then bring yourself back to the center. And it's going to be important that you can look out in the distance, that you can almost like you're looking out on the horizon. So for instance, I have to look through a kitchen wall to see my horizon. So I pretend like that wall's not there, so that I'm just kind of easily standing. And if you need to look at the screen every now and then, that's cool. And if you need to put a hand on the chair every now and then, that's great. That's good too. But what I invite you to do is just to almost like imagine there's a piece of paper underneath your heels, and you just barely lift your heels from the ground and then tap them down. And then you lift your heels and tap, lift your heels and tap, lift and tap. And then we're going to do this to the mimic of your heartbeat. So maybe bring your hand up to your heart just to feel the blop, 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 blop of your heart. That rhythm. And then slide your hand back down. So we're going to tap our heels twice, like in a 2 count, you might say. Pum, 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 pum. You can even say with me if you want. Pum, 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 tap, 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 pum, 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 pum. One more, pum, pum. And then rest. And then we want to find something to support these beautiful curves of our spine, your spine. So bring a hand that you can slide up over your body and around to the back of your neck, where you can spread your fingers out. So your little fingers on the back of your head and your thumbs on your shoulder. If you look up just slightly, your middle finger will automatically just slide into the deepest curve of your neck. And then bring your eyes back to the horizon. And so what can we do to support this neck? What about if you slide the other hand up to your breastbone and you begin to scoop your breastbone in and up, and then let it go, and do it a few times and see if you can listen with that hand that's behind your neck as you scoop your breastbone in and up. Does your neck seem to change shape, or does something there get lighter, easier? Just lightly scoop your breastbone in and up. And the next time you have it that you like it like that, keep it, look out in the distance and bounce on your heels. Bum, 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 bum. One more, bum, bum. Hand that's behind your head, slide up. The other hand just slide down to confirm this length that we've created in our necks. What's it like to take a breath? And then how about bringing a hand to your low back? And even just using the back of your hand this time, just to explore the shape of your low back, this beautiful curve. And then even fan your fingers out like before. So your little finger points down towards your tailbone, not on your tailbone, but down towards your tailbone, thumbs on your spine. And can you use your fingers almost like you're gonna let your fingers be sticky to that skin or that shirt that your hand is touching, that you wanna just lightly fan your fingers out and carry the skin and your back with it, just to encourage just a little bit of lengthening. And once you have that, look out in the distance, keep it, and bounce on your heels here. Bum, 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 bum. One more, bum, bum. Let your hand rest at your side. Is anything changing that you can notice? And then let's see if there's a way to put it together. So choice of the hand that's either going to come up to your breastbone or to the back of your neck. So one hand to support your neck, either maybe you like this scooping action, or maybe you just like your hand on the back of your head. You decide. And then the other hand, bring to your low back. So we're going to support the curve of our neck and support the curve of our low back. So if your fingers are behind your back with your hands, spread them just the slightest bit. And if you have a hand on your breastbone, scoop up and in. Scoop in and up, I should say, in and up. So once you feel like, oh, wait a minute, I just got a little bit taller, keep that. Take your eyes in the distance. Bounce on your heels here. Bum, 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 bum. One more, bum, bum. Let it go. Let your hands rest. And notice now which foot has more of the weight of yourself, or are they just a little bit more similar? The scales read a similar weight. You could sway the slightest bit and just see if there's been a change. And then when you feel ready, walk around. I often encourage walking around for a whole minute if you can, a whole internet minute, which is a lot. As you're walking, see, is anything easier? A place that you were noticing earlier today, is something easier about that place. And if you'd like to pop into the chat, your experience, something that you're noticing, something that's curious to you, curious for you, an observation, a question, a comment, an objection, all welcome here, all thoughts welcome. And this is that thing that we did in the first 5 minutes with Cynthia, where I walked in with some hip pain and I could have left right then and would have been like, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing work, because my hip pain that had been happening forever, it seemed like forever, was gone within those first 5 minutes. So see friends, Cindy writes, feeling more connected in spine. Brian writes, elongation of spine, beautiful. Grounded and balanced, feeling taller, walking lighter. Sharon writes, my spine feels longer, weight is more balanced on both feet. Yay, yay is right. Jenny writes, I free your hips now in my walking, beautiful. Deb writes, less pain in the left hip, more evenly balanced on my feet. What a gift. Kirsten, works, had definitely more weight on the left before, now almost equal. Nice.
So that is a little bit of the bread and, we might say, the bread and butter of Bones for Life. And I'd like to invite you to another experience, and then we'll get a chance to talk some more. How about that? So experiences first. Experience is more important than a bunch of words. And you will need for this experience a table, a chair. So I'm going to sit at my little dining room, kitchen table, whatever you want to call it, and a couple towels. And it'd be helpful if your chair is not on wheels, so a solid chair. So a chair, a table, a couple towels, and your curious, interesting self. So give everybody just a minute to find a few props, and they don't have to be towels, they could be blankets too, things that are folded. We're going to use them for height. So give everybody just a little bit of time to set up. I'm going to get set up myself.
While you're all getting set up, I know today we're missing quite a few friends who are observing Yom Kippur, the beginning of the new year. Yom Kippur, the day of mending quarrels, and through those mendings of quarrels, discovering new possibilities. And that's really what we're about in this work, discovering new possibilities. So we said you couldn't join us today, many of you, but glad you'll see this on the replay and know that we are with you in this whole idea of beginning again. Finding new possibilities, finding new freedom within ourselves. So as we get set up, set my space up too, and we'll get set up, and then I'll invite you to a little way to check in. How about that? So I'm just going to tilt my camera down so you can see I've got my towels, folded towels. I got lots of them here, brought lots of them just in case. And I'm sitting on my chair. My chair's not on wheels. And one of these towels I might find that I want to sit on. So maybe a little possibility just to set up a little bit for sitting is nice little thing I like to notice is, do I like the chair I'm sitting on? That basic, right? Do I like the chair that I'm sitting on? And or could I benefit from making my chair just the slightest bit higher by maybe taking one of these towels and folding it up and sitting upon it? You'll notice that I have been sitting on this towel all week. It's been pretty crushed here, but it's been my friend just to get my hips up just the slightest bit higher, almost like if there were a marble or a small ball on my hip, it would roll down toward my knee. Tends to invite some freedom for a lot of us, but you decide. That's the most important thing. And you have your towels here that we'll use for some height on the table that are adjustable, and you. And so before we begin, I'd like to invite you to a little check-in, that you bring yourself to stand, just walk around a little bit. This program's all about improving walking. We're going to talk about why in a little bit, why that's so important for human beings. So as you're walking around, maybe just listen to one foot. Bring your attention to one foot and how that foot communicates with the floor. And can you sense, like, when that foot is pressing into the ground, or it's like a little bit of smearing into the ground almost to propel you forward? How does that feel through your whole self? Does it feel like you're with that one foot that's stepping? Does it feel like your hips participate easily? Your knees participate easily through that one foot that you're interested in? Do your shoulders participate easily? Now, if you're new to this kind of exploration, these are strange questions, aren't they? And we'll talk about why they're so strange too in a little bit too. And if you feel like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what he's talking about, it's cool. You don't need to. You don't need to. Just play along. And the more and more we play along, you'll see some huge, beautiful, positive changes happening. Much like I did. So when you're ready, bring yourself back to your seat near your table. And I recommend taking off jewelry. So I'm going to take off my watch. It's the only jewelry I have. I'm going to eventually take off my glasses, but I'm going to keep them on just for a second, just so I can see you and you can see me. And this is where these towels could be helpful. So having these towels on your table will change the height of your table a little bit, right? Because what I'm going to invite you to do is to cross your arms on top of each other. So your arms are kind of centered on this. And then eventually to bring your head on top of your forearm. Now, a couple things as we get set up. And you're going to need to probably want to adjust, your chair a little bit, distance of your chair to the table, because you want to feel like you got some room. And you want to feel like you can just very easily fold forward and rest your head on your top forearm. So as you do that, you can kind of think, gosh, either maybe what you just chose is great, or maybe it'd be smart if you kind of wiggled toward the front of your chair so that you're still very comfortable and stable on your chair, but now your hips can kind of more easily roll forward. And maybe as you're here, you feel like, oh my gosh, I think I'd like another layer and see what that's like. Or unfold the layer that's below it if you've already maxed out on layers, and see if a little bit lower is nice. So for me, this feels like, so this is me sensing, I feel like, oh, that's too much. And well, that's about right, Just finding a place that's comfortable, knowing that you can change it through the whole experience. So as you have your head in a comfortable place on your forearm, your head's heavy there. It's just resting on your top forearm. Barely doing anything at all, can you begin to slide your head either like a centimeter, half an inch to the right or to the left, and then back. You do that a few times, just in that one direction. And invite you to see, can you do this in a way that your nose does not turn, which is to say your nose continues to point down toward your table or toward the floor. So you're just sliding your head, almost like there was butter on your head or chocolate sauce, or you could think of charcoal too. You're just smearing that just the slightest bit to the whichever direction you chose. And as you do that and you feel your feet on the ground, you start to notice, what does your spine do? Maybe especially your upper spine. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, let it go. Maybe you rest just by sitting up and just changing your position of yourself. And again, just there's nothing to see on this screen right now. So just look out in the distance or look in a place that's easy. And then bring your arms again on top of each other. Rest your forehead on your arms, just like before. And this time, what's it like to smear in the other direction? Just half an inch or a centimeter in that direction. Is it different? Is something different? And then can you connect it from the left to the right? Of course, you can take rest anytime you like. Your arms stay steady where they are. It's just your head that's sliding, just your head. Beautiful. Beautiful. And when you're ready, let that go. Sit yourself up if you'd like. Take a little pause. You can bring yourself to stand for a second. And so you'll notice just for the recording, I'm going to pin a few folks' videos. Doesn't mean you're doing the movement right or wrong, just means you have an excellent angle that we can see what happens as you interpret these invitations. And just as you stand for a second, then maybe walk around a little bit, and just experience your walking. Can you luxuriate in these steps? Something changing already. We barely did anything, right? And then bring yourself back when you're ready. And set yourself up as before, but check in. Maybe now you feel like, oh, maybe I would like that other layer, or maybe it was too high before. So it's just about your comfort. Like if you like what you got, then you want to stay with it. You are the feeler, you are the sensor, the one who is sensing. And you stack your arms on top of each other, rest your forehead on your forearms, just like before. The top forearm as before. And noticing the position of your nose, just pointing down to the ground. You slide your head a little bit to the right, slide your head a little bit to the left. And as you do that, just start to listen to what happens in your upper back and what happens in your hips. There's like a little weight shift in your hips, isn't there? As your head slides to the right, maybe a little bit more weight pours into your right hip. As your head slides to the left, a little bit more weight pours into your left hip probably. And then really listening to yourself, can you slide your head just the slightest bit further, like maybe another 1/4 of an inch or less than a centimeter to the right? Maybe that amount to the left, or maybe it needs to be less in one of those directions. So again, you listen, you notice. And you continue to notice your nose pointing down. And can you make the movement smaller and smaller and smaller until that movement gets so small that if somebody were watching you, they'd think, oh, the person fell asleep. Good. And after it's finished, let it go. Take a little pause, sit yourself up and take a rest again. Might feel good to stand again and just stand for a second and notice what it feels like to be on your feet. Walk around again when you're ready. So nice to see everyone walking so gracefully. I think that we're all walking all over this planet together. Those wonders of Zoom. And then when you're ready, bring yourself back, a place where you can sit again. And bring yourself to cross your arms on top of each other again. And notice what you chose, which arm is on top. And notice what that feels like. And what would it be like to put the other arm on top? You could try it. If you know that's not going to be happy for you, then go back to the first arrangement. So see what it's like to have the other arm on top and to rest your head there and just feel it's different, isn't it? It's different than before. And then play with that simple sliding just a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. Just experience what's different about this arrangement of your arms. Could such a small difference be so different? And what's it like to slide your head on your forearms even more slowly? Just to move so slowly. And then what's it like to speed that up just slightly or slow it down just slightly? Beautiful. And then when you're ready, let it go and sit yourself up. Take a little rest. And then this time, place just one forearm on the towels, blankets in front of you, just one forearm. And the other hand, maybe it rests on your lap, on your leg of that side, or could rest on the table. So find a place as you rest your head just on that one forearm. Maybe now that your arms aren't so high, maybe now you feel like, oh, I need another layer. I need to make this a little higher. And so you do that for yourself. You keep catering to yourself. Do what's easy for yourself. So you have your head now on one forearm. And you begin that smearing towards your elbow. Smearing your head towards your elbow and back. And your nose points down to the ground at first here. So you're smearing your head towards your elbow and then towards your wrist. That's it. Just like so. Yeah, I see some people even doing it in the air. That's a wonderful thing, especially if you don't have a table in front of you. Yeah. And then how about the next time you smear your head towards your elbow, at some point it's like, oh, I can't smear any further, and then start to turn your head so that your nose points towards your thumb of the arm that your head is resting upon. And then almost like somebody you love has a couple little tufts of your hair in the back of your head and just gently draws the back of your head towards your elbow. And then they let it go, and then you let your head start to roll back so your nose points down. You smear your head towards your wrist. And then you smear your head towards your elbow. And once you feel like, oh, that's as far as I can go, then you start to turn your head. You roll your head so your head's still heavy on your arm. And you smear the back of your head towards your elbow. Even with that idea that somebody that you love just gently has a few pieces of hair. And then you roll your head so your nose points back down to the ground. And smear your head towards your wrist. Do that a few times in a range that's easy and in a speed that's easy for you. So I have the luxury of being able to watch everybody. Everybody's moving at different speeds. Wonderful. Beautiful. And once you've had enough, let it go. Excuse me. Sit yourself up and take a little pause. And in these pauses, just feel what's changing. Every move changes us. Every breath you take changes us. The movement of your breath changes you as an organism, as a creature, and a wise creature at that. And if it's comfortable to place the other forearm on top of that stack of towels, do that. But if you know, ooh, I'm not going to be so happy to do this other side, then repeat the first side. You do what's easy. That's where we learn best. That's where we grow the most. And so again, if your head on one forearm, the other hand's maybe just resting on your leg, or it could be on the table in front of you. You decide what's most comfortable for you. You feel the heaviness of your head on that arm. And since this is our second side, start real small. start real small and just sliding your head in the direction of your elbow and sliding it back. And you make the movement smaller for this side, your second choice, right? Your second choice of sides. And then again, if it feels okay to slide your head a little further toward your elbow, great. But at some point, we want to listen for like, oh, that's as far as I want to go with my nose pointing in that direction. And then let your head roll. And then let the back of your head move towards your elbow. Beautiful. And then to come back, your head rolls again, so your nose points back toward the floor. And then you smear your head in the direction of your wrist with your nose pointing toward the floor. Your arm stays relatively still, yeah, relatively still on those. That stack of blankets, towels. Very good. You've had enough, let it go. Sit up and just see, does it feel differently to sit here? Bring yourself to stand when you're ready. And just stand, looking out in the distance. What's different about your standing? Is the weight different on your feet? And then as you're ready, begin to walk around and start to tune in again to that foot that was interesting to you, interesting for you. Is that foot coming in contact with the floor differently now? And are your knees, or your hips, or your shoulders moving more easily? And if so, why? How could that be? And again, I invite you to put into the chat experiences, comments, questions, insights, observations, objections. All welcome. All welcome. It's nice for us all to be able to see these too. So if you can send them to everybody, that'd be great. Should be the default option on the chat too. Let's give everybody a minute to share their experience. Come back to me on the spotlight. Person that can't see me. So Richard says, that chosen foot feels more awake, alive. Oh, wonderful. Margot, suddenly there's a bounce to my step. Wow, wonderful. Also feeling even weight. Ah, Betsy said, got you through the sticking point. Yes. Nancy, feeling considerably taller, feet equal. Wow, cool. Basha, so much easier to walk, no pain. Good. Akasha, amazing. Sandy reports, the foot is actually coming off the floor differently because my weight is coming onto the other foot differently. Funny. Yeah, it is, isn't it? My neck, Jan Joy, My neck is much looser and standing feels more stable. My hip feels looser on the chosen side. Margot, I feel a slight relaxed swing to my movement. Oh, lovely, 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 lovely. Betty, my neck feels better. Somebody that's in the current training sent me a direct message. I won't say the person's name. Said, as one of your students and familiar with this process, I'm still amazed at how fabulous this process is. Thank you. Yeah, see you Monday. Yeah, see you Monday, friend. So we have a group that's already in this training and loving it, loving it. So Paul writes, my neck feels so much better and taller. Great, 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 great. So I'd like to give you just a little bit of information about this, Bones for Life, and tell you a little bit of the story. So you heard my crazy story. You know, I thought my mom was nuts for going to these Bones for Life classes, and she was going because she had found out that she was osteopenic, much like Ruthie Alon, who created this work. And I'll tell you more about her in a minute. And I thought, that is not going to do anything for you. And she's doing great. She's been staying with Cynthia's classes and my classes all these years. And it's been a great thing for her. And I'm amazed at how great of a thing it has been for me. As Cynthia said, I've done a number of trainings through my life. And this was the smartest. This was the wisest. And there's something about this group of processes that really speak to each other so nicely. And so I'd like to share my screen here in just a second. And give you just a little bit more information about this wonderful program. It's not letting me share. There we go. There we go. So you can see this, yes? Give me a head shake for those of you who can see. Yeah, sharing. Okay, cool. So here is Ruthie Alon, founder of Bones for Life, and you might hear a train going through my neighborhood here. Always comes every time I'm on Zoom, but I guess that's the fun of the party. And Ruthie, as many of us know, was a student of Moshe Feldenkrais for decades. And when she was in her 60s, she'd been doing all this movement her whole life, beautiful movement. And she honestly said, I am not going to age. I've been taking such good care of myself. And all those things about aging, that isn't going to happen to me. And curiously, she started noticing that she was a world traveler sharing Feldenkrais's ideas. So some of us know Moshe Feldenkrais was this pioneer on neuroplasticity, growing one's nervous system, the ability of one's nervous system to change quickly through movement. And let this train get by, it'll just be a few cars. Almost there, almost there. And Ruthie was in Feldenkrais's classes and had been moving so well for all these years, but then started noticing as she was out and about teaching his work all over the world that like, I'm not carrying my suitcase as much. I'm real happy when other people carry it for me. She was in her 60s and saw a picture of herself and noticed, and she was teaching, I think it was in North America here, and saw herself kind of hunched, and she thought, what is that? What's going on there? And then got a diagnosis that she was osteopenic. So on the road to the very beginnings of osteoporosis. And she thought, how can that be? I've taken such good care of myself. And so she read all the studies about osteoporosis and osteopenia, and discovered that the one thing that's common to prevent osteoporosis in every study was walking. Every study agreed to that. There were all kinds of, every study also said, and then maybe this, and then maybe this, things they were testing for. But the one thing they thought is prevents osteoporosis most readily is walking on this gravity-rich planet. So she said, well, let me improve my walking. What do I need to do? So she studied all kinds of different ways of walking. Was very inspired by the African water carriers. The fact that they can carry a load on their head and move into uprightness. rather curious about that. And she started designing movement processes that began to speak to that sense of finding length in one's spine that we found through that bouncing on heels at the very beginning, right? And she designed a program that is beautiful called Bones for Life, 90 processes. And through the immersions, we'll get a chance to explore them. So you might begin to wonder, like, how in the heck does this work, right? And I always ask the question, are you sitting upright or standing, or have you done that before? Well, then you are incredibly intelligent, as this young man is intelligent. This is my cute little nephew here in the shades. Major intelligence to be able to stand on a gravity-rich planet. Babies can't do it, right? It's this long process of learning within oneself. It's not like somebody, yeah, we playfully play with babies and walk them and help them roll and crawl, whatever, but really it's a game played within oneself that we all went through in our own interesting ways. It's very organic in that way. So babies, we navigate our world through movement and play. Oh, I want that toy over there. How do I get there? Oh, I want to get up there and walk. Oh, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. Our curiosity leads us, and Bones for Life uses that curiosity and uses that very inner intelligent way of learning. And the whole idea is that if we improve our walking, then that's going to improve our every move. Now, I have to say, when I got involved in this, I don't think I was really interested in improving my walking. I was just intrigued by the fact that I got relief from pain so quickly as a result of these processes that we did at that Tea and Learn with Cynthia. And then even more so when I jumped into the immersions with Cynthia, I was just interested in, like, oh, this feels good. Maybe that's a good enough reason. But just know that the background of all this is that Ruthie was trying to improve her own walking so she can improve her bone health, so that one, walking was more pleasurable, and two, so that she felt more of a dynamic alignment within herself in being upright, so that walking could be more efficient, pleasurable, more efficient, and then more ready to build bone. So that when she thought about walking, it was like this, yeah, I want to go do it. I want to go walk. Instead of like, oh gosh, I've been walking around like this and it hurts. She wanted to find ways that was like, I can be upright with ease without any cost to myself. And so she designed these 90 processes, and we call them immersions. This is going to let me go. Oh, come now. There we go. And our Bones for Life Immersion 1 that we're offering coming up is 5 weeks, 5 either Sundays or Mondays, your choice, starting October 17th. It's 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. That's Eastern time. And the cost is $450. There's a sliding fee schedule available. And you'll see that, and I'll show you where to sign up and where all that information is and what the sliding scale possibilities are. And you'd be meeting with friends from around the world. So our current training has people from Australia, China, all through Europe. We have somebody from South Africa. We have somebody from Madagascar, I'm pretty sure. And all throughout the United States, Canada. We had a few folks from South America before, Central America before. And it's just this wonderful worldwide community of friends gathering during these 4.5 hours every Sunday or every Monday for 5 weeks, and just sharing in these processes that are short, sweet, and wonderful, and beginning to learn that everything can change so quickly and so positively through small, gentle movement. Why does this keep sticking on me? There we go. So you might be interested. So there are actually 3 immersions. So, and I'll show you that in just a second. So there's an immersion 1 that starts in October, and then immersion 2 that's totally different processes, kind of like if immersion 1 is processes 1 to 30, we don't quite do that many during the immersion, but close to that. And then immersion 2 is processes 31 to 60, and immersion 3 is processes 61 to 90. And you get about 22-ish processes in each of the immersions. and we review things and talk about things so that so it all starts to make some sense. And we call that, those immersions 1, 2, and 3, that's basic certification, or phase 1, as we call it in Ruthie's work. And a lot of people take it just for their own health. I have to say, that's why I was there. I don't think I went in thinking I was going to become a Bones for Life teacher. I was already a yoga teacher. I thought that was going to be enough for me. But sometimes, we get into things for our own health and suddenly go, maybe I would like to share this work. So might consider that too. It's a wonderful program and the most intelligent way of inviting people to learn to teach, in my opinion. And the prerequisite for becoming the teacher training portion, I'll show you that in a second, is to take these first 3 immersions. And these first 3 immersions, which is that basic certification, is 60 hours. And if you sign up for all of it together, you save $100. So there's the information about teacher certification. So phase 1, basic certification, those first 3 immersions 1, 2, and 3. And then phase 2, so immersions 1, 2, and 3, in this program will finish February 21st of 2022. That's the next year we're going into, right? And shortly after that, we'll gather more people together for phase 2, which is the teacher certification. And that advanced study is really beginning to be with these processes again, and to study them and to be curious about them in so many different ways, through the didactic, through mentoring with Cynthia. And she's a brilliant mentor, so good with, just meeting each of us where we are, and then some practice teaching. So a total of 210 hours for that certification. And I just want to say something about that advanced study. And we were laughing about this in the training on Monday. Some of us were, and one of my movement teachers very wisely told the story. He'd gotten into green teas during the pandemic. This is kind of like his afternoon treat or something like that, and got into some really fun, I think it was even a tea club. And he said these fine teas with these aficionados of tea had said that sometimes the best, the best antioxidants and the best flavor don't come about until the 4th steep. So the first steep, yeah, it tastes good. So for some of us, you might have just had your first steep today, right? Your first taste of Bones for Life. And oh yeah, it's nice, it's interesting. Maybe it works for me, maybe not. You try another process, the same process again a few weeks later. Oh, that's interesting. And then the 3rd time you try it, oh, well, wait a minute. This is, oh. And then the 4th and the 5th and on and on and on. And yeah, there's goodness in the first steep of any tea and any process. And then the 2nd, oh, the 3rd, oh. And maybe that's the case. And that's the gift of the teacher certification. We keep returning to these 90 processes. It's not like we bring another 90 processes and confuse you all, right? It's really beginning to study the gift of these 90 processes, some of which are a minute long, some of which are 25, 30 minutes long. And they're all very different, but they all begin to speak to that improving our walking. And the gift of our training is you get to study with 2 different people. So you all know the brilliance of Cynthia Allen, and as I do too. And I have to tell you, she was brilliant when we had her for training, is that 8 years ago? But I tell you, she's way more brilliant now. She keeps growing with this work. And that's the thing about the work, is it keeps helping us to grow. And even to the point where you can troubleshoot your life. You can go, oh, I've got this going on. Oh, I can go do this, and then I'll be better. I'll feel a little bit better. And she's excellent at doing that with other people. And I'm starting to get good at it too. Where it's this, with these 90 processes, you think within that 90, and it's just enough. So some of us have, Feldenkrais training, which is beautiful and wonderful. And I loved it, and always will. And love the work. And Ruthie kind of took a lot of those Feldenkrais ideas, instead of it being in 1,000, 1,500 long lessons and processes, took those ideas that Feldenkrais had been playing with and made them into a smaller kind of bite-sized program. And I think it's just brilliant what she's done. And my own time of studying with her, I couldn't believe it. She was 88 years old. She taught 5 or 6 days in a row. It was all day. It was 10 to 5. By the end of the day at 5 o'clock every day, we had to tell her we were done, that she would have kept going. She was having so much fun. And she taught from a single note card. You know, she was just so clever and so brilliant in bringing forward these ideas. And it's just a lovely program. And they're continuing education credits for massage and body workers for the Feldenkrais method. And this immersion opportunity, the deadline to register for this next go is October 1st. We won't be offering another one until long after spring of next year. So this is the chance, right? For those of us that are really using the pandemic as a time of renewal and study, this is a great opportunity, especially at least those of us in the Northern Hemisphere. We head into the cooler months. I think it's a great way. I know those of us that did this last fall, winter, and early spring, we enjoyed ourselves last year quite a bit. Really found ourselves growing, and walking became so fun. So what do you get? You get the opportunity to feel great, improve in all areas of movement, and that's priceless. And I mentioned to you that how would improving your walking, how would that improve everything? Well, walking's a key thing that we've been doing since we were, I don't know, around 1, right? And so our entire nervous system is built and based on the foundations of our nervous system grew because of our first rolling and pressing into something, and then eventually crawling, our own form of crawling or creeping, and then eventually standing, and then eventually walking. That's what grew our nervous system. A lot of other things too. But, you know, to improve those things, which we do all of those things in our program, and improve our walking, everything is built upon that. So is it possible that if you're a runner, that your running will improve as a result of this program? Definitely. Well, almost definitely. You have to find out, right? Is it possible that I'm a golfer? Is it possible that my golf game will improve as a result? I've seen it improve. Is it possible that my weightlifting could improve as a result of this? Yeah, it definitely did. So that's what this is about. And what else do you get? Camaraderie, the ability to learn together. It is so fun, those times that we gather, and such rich learning. We experience the process. We get a chance to talk about it. We get to laugh together. It's just a wonderful, wonderful time. And some people talk quite a bit in those things. Some people talk not at all. So it's always up to you. The program is designed to meet you where you are, especially these first 3 immersions. You get those experience from 2 different teachers. Cynthia and I have similar styles, complementary styles. I learn something new every time I'm with her too, which is great. I think she learns something from me every now and then too, which is wonderful. And then you get access to all the recordings in one easy place to log in and use. And it's a great interface, great place to go back and kind of, I was rather curious about this process. You can go right back to it. You know, now we've even got a way to chapter them, so it's easy to find them all too. We didn't have that a whole year ago, but now we do. Now we do. CEUs, and then you get a certificate as well. So if you'd like to sign up, you go to Future Life Now online and look for the Bones for Life immersion. I can drop it in the chat here in a little bit. Space is limited. This is not a program where we're trying to get hundreds of people all together for this experience, because we want it to be as interactive as possible. So we have limited the number in all of these in both the Sunday and the Monday program. So if you got an inkling that this is calling your name, I'd sign up sooner than later. Otherwise, you'll have to wait until next year, and probably long after March. How about finding a little confidence and vitality within oneself? And then here, if you do decide that you're going to sign up and you go to Future Life Now online, you'll eventually go, you'll click on a button that says, take me to sign up for order registration. And then you'll see here that there's the ability to register for just Immersion 1 on a Sunday, on the Sunday program or the Monday program. And then if you've already taken Immersion 1 for some reason, you can sign and you want to do 2. There's a registration for 2, or for 3, there's 3. And then if you know that you're going to go for all 3, save yourself the $100 early on and sign up for the you notice under basic certification, the middle column, it says immersion 1 on Sundays, plus the immersions 2 and 3 on Mondays. Or if you know Mondays is going to be your cup of tea, there's the Monday button. And you might be wondering, what's the deal with all this cloth? We used this strip of cloth, a wrap, in the program. And here we are just having fun with it. This was a few years back in a park, long before the pandemic began. And we were just having some fun with the cloth. So beautiful too, huh? But that cloth is a brilliant helper, brilliant helper. So, let's see. There we go. Perhaps you have questions, and I've not been able to see the chat during that time. My computer doesn't let me do it. Good questions. Is there any research to show positive results for osteoporosis? The research is in process. Cynthia and her Integral Human Gait partner, Carol Montgomery, they have a published study that's not about osteoporosis, but the ability to improve balance so that people could feel a little bit more confident in their walking. And that's on Future Life Now. You can find that link there. And in terms of osteoporosis is a tough one to study. There are some studies ongoing, and I can say from Ruthie's case, so she was diagnosed in her 60s, and I saw her when she was 88. She died when she was 90, just earlier at the end of last year. And if she is testimony, the testimony would be that her osteopenia did not get worse, that she was through walking able to kind of stop it in its tracks. And that's really the game. And as Cynthia is fond of always saying, I mean, the research shows that eventually all of us, every human being on the planet will someday have osteoporosis. It's just the name of the game of being human on the planet. But can you stop it from continuing, right? And those of us that play with these movements and begin to think about this, how do I find access, this ability to be tall, to stand tall on the planet without any cost? We're the study group. We're the study group of it. Just looking here. Yeah, if you start out shorter. Well, I can tell a little story about one of our friends that took the Bones for Life training. Has been in the program for I think 2 years. That was just at the beginning of the pandemic, so a year and a half. It was a year and a half ago for those of us here in the United States, anyway. And she's in her 80s, and she had been doing Bones for Life for 6 months, and had the annual physical scheduled, went to the doctor, and they lead you to the scale and they weigh you and they measure your height, and the person that was measuring her said, this shows that you've grown 1.5 inches. That doesn't usually happen to people in their 80s, the nurse said. She said, well, I have. She knew that she'd been doing Bones for Life and their body had changed. She went in to see the doctor, and the doctor said, no, this cannot be right. Let's get back out there. They went back out there and checked again, and sure enough, she had grown 1.5 inches. And she went back for the next year's physical and had grown just slightly more. So this person has gotten taller in her 80s as a result of Bones for Life. And the nice thing about Bones for Life too, in all these somatic explorations that Future Life Now is doing such a wonderful job of offering, is that every movement is meant to be small. It's kind of that homeopathy idea that the smallest change is the best change. The smallest medicine is the best medicine. And that's the whole idea. So no matter what we bring with our, whatever our history is that we bring to this program, the invitation is for you to sense yourself in movement, to make the movement small, and to begin to feel like, is this okay for me? Is this process okay for me? This feels okay, this feels nice, or no, it doesn't feel nice. I'm just going to sit here and imagine it, or I'm just going to get curious and just watch people today. So that's definitely possible. And the fact that it's 90 processes, you're bound to find at least a few, I would be willing to bet dozens, that you really like. So that's an important, I think that's an important thing that's different than, I would say, a lot of yoga. So I teach yoga, Cynthia mentioned, and often, I don't know, hopefully yoga is changing in that teachers are beginning to say, make the movement small, feel, listen, sense for yourself. And that's the whole invitation of this kind of somatic exploration. And perhaps now it might be a nice time to let me be quiet for a while and hear from you. Maybe you have a question that you'd like to raise your hand about, and you can raise your Zoom hand. I think since everyone's muted, I'll have to unmute you a little bit. So you can raise your Zoom hand if you know how to do that. If you go to your name over in the participants is one way to do it. And depending on which version of Zoom you have, you can also tap onto your picture and you'll see your Zoom hand emerge. Or I can keep reading questions from the chat. So Darlene asks, our process is many lessons. So Feldenkrais called all his work a lesson. And many of his lessons, I wouldn't say maybe most, I don't know, are 35 to 50 minutes or longer. And Ruthie's are sometimes longer, but often shorter too. She wanted quick change. She wanted to do, what can we do that can be quick and easy? And so often her experiences are shorter. She calls hers processes. That helps if you're familiar with that difference. Lori asks, I have a client who's had a stroke. Would this help her? She's walking with a cane and a leg brace, but only when needed. That's a good question. I'd say, well, first of all, these immersions are 4.5 hours. They're longer. It's a bigger dollop each day. And so maybe if for any of us who, like, you think about that 4.5 hours, okay, that's 2 or 3 movies long. That's a long go. So if that feels like it's overwhelming, then I'd also highly recommend something smaller. And Cynthia's Future Life Now Online's Your Learning Body, which I think is about to close again, that membership's about to close, might be a nicer option. That's like 1.5 hours each week. You get a whole library of all these other lessons, and something smaller and sweeter might be wiser there as a beginning. For those that are ready to feel like, oh my gosh, I think I could do it, jump on in for the 4.5 hour go. And know that too, and I see this quite a bit in our Mondays, some Mondays people say, oh my gosh, I came into this and I was all ready to go and just feel tired. I just want to take a little rest. Great. The great luxury is you can get it on the recording, right? So you can decide like, oh, I'm gonna log out here for today, give everybody a wave, and then you can pick up on the recording later on. So lots of different ways to engage here. So Darlene has, oh, good. Let me see if we can, if you unmute yourself and like to ask a question.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for that great lesson, Brian. I do have, I'll try to keep it a short question. I'm also a yoga teacher, somatics, some Feldenkrais, love it all. My clientele, as they're aging with me, they're all discovering they have osteo. And what they say to me is, wow, these lessons feel great, but we're afraid to rotate. And our doctor told us not to forward fold. And I guess I really felt like I was offering something very safe in the Hannah's Feldenkrais. I don't do big stretching, power yoga stuff. That's not my group. I just want to make sure I'm offering them something extremely safe. Could you speak to osteo with rotation and forward folding? And I hesitate ever taking those movements out of my life because we need them to walk. And what do you guys say about that?
Yeah, great question. Well, first of all, we always encourage people to follow whatever their doctors tell them to do, right? There's good reason there oftentimes. And the beauty of Ruthie's program is that she's all about what she calls greenhouse conditions. Can you find a way to begin to explore movement in a way that is safe for you? So sometimes that's on the floor, or getting to the floor is not so easy. the great benefit of Zoom right now is people are moving to their beds, which makes it a lot of these programs a lot more accessible for a lot more people. And that's been pretty thrilling. And in this greenhouse condition idea of movement, you know, for those that have osteoporosis, yeah, the twisting is not a good thing, right? It's not a very happy thing. But is it possible to begin to explore movement using the support of the floor, using the support of a wall? We do a number of things using a wall, both with when we're on the ground or when we're actually leaning against the wall, and using that wrap in ways to support ourselves as well. So we've had a number of people with osteoporosis take the program, and if people have questions, I think it's wise to reach out. So for a more specific answer for each person's case, to reach out to Cynthia or me, that we can kind of talk and go, yeah, this sounds like it might be wise. Or again, maybe you might be happier with doing something that's smaller, and like the Your Learning Body is a possibility. But we've seen many people with osteoporosis take the program and find ways to, and find the processes that have been helpful, that are not so twisting oriented. And so much forward folding.
So possibly still being able to rotate and forward fold, but it's more of the how you're doing it, not so much
how. And yeah, and maybe there are other things too that could be helpful, instead of just constantly. So, I mean, the great gift of the kind of Feldenkrais imagination is, you know, maybe there's another way to do this. There's another way to begin to explore this. And, you know, that imagination is definitely within Ruthie's Bones for Life work as well. You know, she calls it movement intelligence for a reason. Right? Is there another way to do what it is that you want to do?
Is there some rotation and forward folding in these lessons?
Very little.
Very little.
Very little.
Okay.
And with all of the processes, you know, whatever is invited, you know, depending on what each of us has, you might go, oh, whoa, this one's not for me. And if it's not, no, it's not like you're going to be out for an hour waiting for the next thing to come along. They're shorter, right? They're shorter and much more captivating for one's nervous system in one's own interests. So if it's like, oh, this lesson I don't think is my cup of tea, if you wait just a few minutes, we'll be with another one. You know, and that's the nice thing about this as well.
Okay. Could you repeat the other name of that training you talked about?
Your Learning Body.
Your Learning Body.
That's through Future Life Now as well. And that membership opens a few times a year. And I know a number of the people that I work with that come to my classes love that. They love that. Matter of fact, I get a chance to join tomorrow, just to soak in some more of Cynthia's goodness. And that's a much more, just like these immersions they're very interactive, but it's not 4.5 hours, right? It's an hour-ish, 90 minutes, I think most, with some conversation.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you, Darlene. Yeah. Alice has a question, please. Oh, I think I have to unmute you. There we go. Try again there. Sorry. There we go.
I'm from Sweden, yes, but it's like this. I wonder to take, as I'm curious about the Ruthie along these Bones of Life, and I do Feldenkrais also, like I'm learned to be that Feldenkrais. Well, I wonder how this education that you now have, is it working just online, or is something that you need to be in person in the course?
Excellent question. Yeah. Excellent question. These first 3 immersions are online. They're all on Zoom. That's how we've been able to gather so many wonderful friends around the world. And we do have a friend from Sweden in the current group, matter of fact. So it's nice to see you here too, Alice. And the beginning of the teacher training program, most of the teacher training programs, so if you do phase 1, those first 3 immersions, and you decide you're going to go on to phase 2 to become a teacher, which could still be just for your health. A lot of people do that. Then most of that is online. And then the last 10 days of it ideally are in person, depending on what the pandemic, what's up with the pandemic. So we found through past years that being in the room together, while the Zoom is amazing, right? We're able to have this conversation right now is incredible. Being together in a room, we learn so much as well from each other, with each other, being able to see each other, being able to put our, get up by somebody's mat and go, oh, do you notice this? Isn't that interesting? Is ideal. Now, depending on where we are in the pandemic, that might need to be on Zoom as well. So we're going to do our best to try to gather everybody together, and then we'll see what happens, right? But guaranteed, those first 3 immersions 1, 2, and 3 will be online. They'll be online only.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Another question? Jop, do you have a question? Yeah. Oh, you'll have to unmute yourself too, friend. We can't hear you yet.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah,
Yes, we can hear you.
I see. It's first time I see you, and I'm a bit late because I was eating. So I missed the lesson. I understand that you're now finishing the business, but there is a possibility to see it again somewhere.
There is. Cynthia will be sending it out. I think tomorrow is what she said. So
Okay,
we'll send you a link that you'll be able to see and experience the lessons and get a taste of the work.
very
And,
nice.
yeah.
I
I hope you had a good dinner.
I had a good dinner, yeah.
Good. Most importantly. So yes,
I'm
you'll be able to see these lessons.
I'm a Feldenkrais teacher also.
Oh, good. Wonderful.
My partner also is also Feldenkrais teachers.
Wonderful. Such wonderful work, isn't it? Work,
Yeah,
play, I say.
it
More
is.
like play.
It's marvelous work.
Yeah. And what a gift that we can do this during the pandemic online on Zoom.
Oh yeah,
We can continue to grow and improve our lives even when we have some constraints happening in our world, right? So,
absolutely.
wonderful gift. Well,
Okay.
thank you for your question. Nice
You're
to
welcome. Hope to see you again.
hope to see you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Just want to check the chat here real quick. Looks like I've been able to answer most of the questions here. Yeah. And any other hands that people would like to raise? Some nice resources in the chat too, suggestions from friends. Well, today was just a taste. It was just a taste. And I can tell you the processes are so rich. And some of them are longer. And yet, even just like after you've taken the immersion, sometimes like I wake up in the morning and I go lie on my floor and just kind of listen to my body and, listen to myself and kind of go, well, what would be nice today? What could help me kind of get the kinks out? From sleeping. I think I'm kind of a wild sleeper. I end up in all kinds of wild positions on my bed. I don't know about you, but I wake up and kind of feel, I don't know, a little kinked, and I lie down the floor and do something, just some short idea that Ruthie offers. Doesn't even have to be the full lesson, full process. And then I get up and it's like, oh, I feel great. I feel great, and then go about my day. I go make my tea. I go do whatever it is I'm going to do. And sometimes too, I'll notice in the middle of, because I do a lot of writing, Cynthia mentioned, and I'll think, gosh, I'm kind of at a stopping point here where I don't have anything more I can do here. And I've been sitting here a while, and I'll go lie on the floor again and do like another 1 minute thing, 1 or 2 minute thing. Like, oh, what would be interesting? Oh, we did that thing in class. Let me try that. Let me play with that. And then I get up and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And then suddenly it's like that, whatever little block I had with writing, suddenly it's like, oh, that's out of the way. So this whole, my whole day kind of rolls that way. And then before I go to bed, I'll lie on the floor and do something for a minute. It might be longer than a minute, but oftentimes, but sometimes a minute's all that's needed. And just those little things have improved my life so much. And maybe yours too, maybe yours too. So I invite you to play with the ideas that we did today. You'll get to see them on the recording, and make the movements small so you can really begin to feel what's happening within yourself, sense what's happening within yourself, and let me know what happens for you. And hope to see you at the immersions that are happening here starting October 17th. And what a treat to be able to meet together and grow together and share in each other's ideas. So thank you so much, and reach out if you've got questions, and wonderful to be together around the world here today. Thank you, thank you, thank you.